Órale, bienvenidos and welcome to the Familia FFP podcast. This is Jorge Martin and Familia. We are on YouTube. Please give us a like and subscribe, por favor. That we'd really appreciate it. We're getting close to 100 subscribers. That would be, we'd love that. We can change our name on our URL. So, por favor, give us a like and subscribe. Also, we're part of the Fantasy Points Media Group, another Familia. So, you know what? You get so many great things. Right now, they're in the middle of 32 days, 32 articles, 32 podcasts. Our guest today is going to be a guest on one of their podcasts coming up. But, you know, you got so much. Key off-season moves, Scott Barrett's strength of schedule. You got Joe Dolan's interviews with beat writers like mi amigo coming up. Graham Barfield's pace and tendencies. I mean, John Hansen's final points. Familia. So much good stuff. Go to Fantasy Points. Make sure you go to fantasypoints.com, put in the promo code Familia22, Familia22 if you get and you get 10% off your subscription, por favor. And when I talk about return guests, this is I'm not gonna lie when I say this is a compa. So in many ways, Gilbert Manzano, Gilberto, as I won't say it like Dan and Dago. I'll leave it up to him or how Coach Staley says it. But I'm telling you, this has been my go-to guy for Chargers talk. I mean, I'm telling you, and he's also the coach. He's been a beat writer for a couple of years now, covering the Chargers for the Daily News and the Orange County Register. You guys know how special the Daily News is to me and my career. They gave me my start. He's also the co-host with What's Up, Bro? I couldn't do it. I couldn't quite do it. Fernando Ramirez on the Compas on the Beat. That I love. I've been a subscriber since one of the very first episodes. In fact, I've listened to all of them, and I love that. I love that you guys have been able to keep this going even after Fernando's taken his talents to South Bend. Gilberto is a fellow Matador. Don't go to him with for any avocado talk. Just don't bother. But let me tell you, esto es un gran placer. I always love talk. This is a shout out also to Beto Duran, you know, another Latino media all-star. Always love to bring on a fellow Latino onto Familia FFP. Bienvenido, Gilbert, mi amigo. Thank you again for coming on.
Jorge, that was the best intro I've ever had. I think you gave the whole bio. You wrote my story. You could write the movie for me. Now you know who I am. You know me well. And I'm glad to be on your podcast because you're the OG compa. And it's good to see the familia expanding. You're doing big things. And I love the support that you give Fernando and I with Compas on the Beat. And you know how to pronounce Gilberto. So you're definitely a compa. And just thank you for all the shout outs and support over the last year that I've gotten to know you.
No, you guys have been great, and it's to reuse a line that Tommy Lasorda once said. I don't like you guys because you're Mexican. I like you guys because I'm Mexican. So
yeah,
so
part of the family.
Somos familia. Todos somos familia, like I always love to say. And well, I want to jump into it. There's so much excitement around the Chargers going into this upcoming season. It starts with number 10, and I think that the excitement is coming from. I still buzz so much when I think about those the into that Raider game, especially those, I think it was 6 fourth down conversions. This is a guy who's got Justin Herbert. He's got ice in his veins. You pointed out on a recent episode of Compas on the Beat that this is his first time having the same offensive play caller for 2 years in a row. I think since it was since high school, right? Or early Oregon.
I don't think since high school. The thing, that for him is, since Oregon, he had Marcus Arroyo for 2 years. But the thing for him, it was the head coach is changing. They kept down Arroyo for I think it was maybe his junior or senior year. So he had the same coordinator in college at Oregon, but he went to 3 head coaches at Oregon, and to have 3 head coaches in college is crazy to think of. He was a senior, so 4 years, and then you go from Anthony Lynn to Brandon Staley. So that was 5 head coaches in 6 years. So for him, he'll welcome any type of continuity, and having Joe Lombardi for 2 years is going to help out Justin Herbert. It's funny because he kind of set a lot of records. He had crazy numbers, Justin Herbert, but some people are still not happy about Joe Lombardi. Because maybe it doesn't kind of air it out as much, but maybe that was a feel out year the first year, and then now, okay, Joe, stop being so conservative. Let Justin Herbert go. He knows the system, and we'll see how it goes in 2022.
So what are we looking at? I mean, there's more familiarity with the offensive play caller. What can we possibly be? Because there was a lot of people talked about the conservative approach, not so many deep shots last year because people were dropping back a lot of extra coverage. But there's the progression, and this is an elite talent that we're talking about. Could we be looking at an even more potent offense this year?
Yeah, that was the thing with Justin Herbert going into his second year. People were asking me, how can this guy get better from his rookie year? And it was harder for me to answer that question because he was so good as a rookie, and he found a way. He got much better, like not even just a little bit. He got much better his second year. That he's already considered a top 5 quarterback. Yeah, he doesn't have the playoff resume. You kind of saved the top 5 for people like that, but because of skills and talent alone, he did so well his second year that okay, you could see this guy's going to be there eventually. But yeah, it's kind of getting a feel for the system with Joe Lombardi, and it's a very complicated scheme. It's funny. Every you kind of hear about the tropes every offseason where like, it was never an issue the learning the offense and during the season, but then after the season's over, like, yeah, my head was spinning. I couldn't figure out the system. How to learn this and that. And Justin Herbert admitted he's such a smart player. He was a 4.0 student at Oregon. You don't think he could struggle with stuff like that. And again, we mentioned all the playbooks he had to learn. He's made that a skill, learning playbooks on the fly. But to him, it got to him at certain points, and he couldn't be fast. He couldn't run the offense at a faster pace like he wanted to. And that's something you're going to see now. Like you see the Aaron Rodgers and Tom Brady catch you off guard on an offside, and then see it and take your deep shot. You're going to start seeing more of that just on Herbert because he knows the offense much better. Okay. The other thing about it is with Joe Lombardi, being called conservative and not taking enough deep shots. I think a big part of it for his second year in the league and first year with Joe Lombardi was that, Joe said, I think after the game against Philadelphia where he completed like 80% of his passes, he was saying, if you take these 10-yard shots and 20-yard shots and you're completing them at 80% rate, it's so hard to go away from that because it's pretty much guaranteed money first down. When you're going deep for the 40 or 50 yards, it's maybe like a 40%, maybe 50% for Justin Herbert. So for Joe, it was him to kind of let him go. And now that he has that trust in Justin Herbert and he sees it, he's gonna go away from the 80% 10-yarders and go a little deeper. So for you fantasy people and you want to draft Justin Herbert, I think you could definitely make a case for him to have another big season where he had 5,000 yards, close to 40 touchdowns passing. Give you maybe 5 to 10 touchdowns rushing. So if they're going to expand the playbook and go deep, you could definitely pick up Justin Herbert in the draft early.
Oh, awesome! Yeah, and it's one of those things that I think I was able to go to the Giants game as a fan, and he made one of the greatest throws I've ever made. That touchdown to Jalen Guyton, where the ball went about 65 yards in the air, and he hit him right a split second before he got hit from behind, and Guyton was waiting for it at the goal line. Still one of the greatest plays I've ever seen live. So one of the calls that you had last year was Austin Ekeler, that you expected him to have kind of like that Alvin Kamara role that the Saints had. Obviously Joe Lombardi was coming over. I don't think anybody saw 20 touchdowns. And he's always talked about wanting to share the load, kind of being a guy that gets 180 to 200 carries and gets a lot of work in the passing game. First off, can we expect more of the same, but maybe with some regression on the touchdown side? And I'm going to ask you a question about the possible rookie that could be a factor.
Okay. Definitely it's hard to replicate 20 total touchdowns in a season again. Austin Eckler kind of dwelled on it after the season was over because like he was an undrafted rookie who had to fight for a spot on the roster, and now he's scoring 20 touchdowns in the NFL. And you kind of know when somebody did something big throughout the season when you see like on social media posts, like in the off season, people love doing the rankings. And every time I see a running back ranking for top 5, Austin Eckler is always on it. And I'm like, okay, he's really done something in the NFL because people love the touchdowns. But Austin Eckler is very honest. He knows that his body can't hold up to be a 3-down back. He's not a workhorse. He'll help you in the passing game. He likes to play in the slot. He likes to be a pass catching running back. So he needed help. He kept, he started like in week 5 saying, yeah, some guys got to step up, but we'll get there. And then week 8, yeah, it hasn't happened yet. And then week 14, he was frustrated. Nobody's helping out Austin Eckler. And it's weird for number 1 running back to say, take some carries. I'm begging you, help me out. My body cannot take this, because Austin Eckler knows that he won't last in the NFL if he keeps kind of having these type of seasons where he's setting career highs in snaps and carries. And if you look at the numbers for Austin Eckler, he by far set career highs in both of those categories: snaps, carries, you name it. He was on the field, pretty often, and it's great to have somebody like that who's reliable as a blocker, as a receiver, as a running back. But he can't hold up, and that's what I love about Austin Eckler. He was honest, so you would think that will kind of the carries will decline a little bit for the player we're about to talk about next, hopefully for the Chargers. But even if you look at the Austin Eckler numbers, I think he had like 8 receiving touchdowns. So even if you take away kind of the goal line carries, he still finds a way to be productive. Like, I could still see him being on the field in the red zone because he's such a great threat as a receiver. Get that wheel route touchdown, just a little dump off, and I think he will still find the way to be a high heavy total touchdown guy. But 20 might be a tough ask, but I still see a high number in the double digits for sure.
You mentioned the red zone work, which really caught everybody by surprise, and so it's one of those things where you look at him. And he's been wanting to work, and I love the fact that he's so open about being a big fan of fantasy football. With he does that show with Liz Losa, a comadre. So they drafted Isaiah Spiller. And a lot of draft pundits had him as the number 3 running back coming out of the draft after Breece Hall and Ken Walker. Could Isaiah Spiller be that guy who finally takes that backup, that secondary role, kind of like the Mark Ingram from back in the day when, to Kamara, and maybe take some of that red zone work?
Yeah, that's the biggest thing for the Chargers, and it's not like they haven't been trying to find a number 2 running back since Melvin Gordon left. They drafted Joshua Kelly from UCLA in the 4th round. They drafted Larry Roundtree from Missouri in the 6th round last year. So the last 2 years they've taken a running back, and neither one has panned out. There's high hopes for Joshua Kelly because he had a fast start, but he had some fumbling problems his rookie year, and ever since that he's kind of had he hasn't really regained his rhythm or even the confidence. Larry Roundtree had trouble being a blocker. He couldn't stay on the field to protect Justin Herbert, and you can't figure out the pass blocking part, you're not going to be on the field. So, and then Larry Roundtree had trouble finding the holes and going to your assignment. So the Chargers were frustrated with the 2 running backs, not just Austin Ekeler, and it didn't work out. So here we are again in April. They drafted Isaiah Spiller. I think also in the 4th round, Texas A&M. There's high hopes for Isaiah Spiller because people love the offense he played in at Texas A&M with Jimbo Fisher. It's a pro style kind of running game, and he was very productive back-to-back years of 1,000 yards rushing, and he showed versatility as a pass catcher running back. Again, the biggest thing for Isaiah Spiller to stay on the field and get those carries, you got to block. If you could block and know your assignment, that's going to buy you time. So the Chargers are hoping 3rd time's a charm for the running back position, and they're crowded. Who knows? Maybe Joshua Kelly decides to step up and he finally figures it out. Same thing with Larry Roundtree year 2. But I think it's definitely Isaiah Spiller's job to be number 2. And the thing that stood out to me for the Chargers, especially GM Tom Telesco, after he got drafted and we were asking about Isaiah Spiller, he said he doesn't want a number 2 kind of running back. He doesn't want a guy to spell Austin Ekeler and give him a breather. He wants somebody to push Austin Ekeler. He wants somebody to potentially be the new number 1 and give Austin Ekeler kind of a real threat. So for him to say that about Isaiah Spiller, he really has high hopes for him.
Oh, outstanding. Well, one guy that met some high hopes last year, Mike Williams. He I think you before the season, you predicted a big season. Lombardi talked about him being the X receiver, kind of like similar to Michael Thomas. Really came up, showed out. Keenan Allen still had his great season. Are we looking at? I mean, assuming health. I always like to assume health, but are we looking at similar kind of similar output from these 2 this year?
Yeah, I think so. I never get worried about Keenan Allen. I know it's like he's going into year 10, but I think he's a young veteran in the NFL. I think he's only 30 years old, which is crazy to me to think about a player who's been in the NFL 10 years. So Keenan's going to do his thing. The thing with Mike Williams, he finally had the breakout year that everybody in the fantasy world has been waiting for Mike Williams. I remember when I started this job in 2018, with covering the Chargers. People every summer ask me what's going on with Mike Williams. Can he finally be a breakout guy? And I always said yeah, because I love the talent. I've seen the flashes, and this guy's a monster in crunch time in the fourth quarter. You throw it up in triple coverage, he's probably gonna get it most of the time. So, but he couldn't figure out to put it all together. He couldn't put receiving yard seasons with a touchdown season. He had 1,000 yard seasons, but he had 2 touchdowns. He had 10 touchdowns one year, but he had like 500 yards receiving. And the catches have never been high volume because you have guys like Keenan Allen, Austin Eckler, and that's kind of what might be an issue again, especially for PPR for Mike Williams. It could be maybe 60 to 70 balls, which is not too bad. But the thing that he makes it up though, he's not the fastest guy, but he's a downfield threat. And like I mentioned, anytime there's crunch time, and you're the number one guy, like Keenan Allen is number one on the roster, kind of for first, second, third quarter. The third downs, Keenan Allen is your guy. But fourth quarter, crunch time, and you need kind of to put all your chips on the table. It's Mike Williams. Justin Herbert has so much trust in Mike Williams, and that's why I really feel strongly about Mike Williams having another big year. Like I mentioned, it could be double coverage, triple coverage, whatever. We saw, like you mentioned, that game, Jorge, in Las Vegas. It was always Mike Williams in the fourth and 10, fourth and 12, whatever, and he got it. So when you have that chemistry and trust from your quarterback, and I know Justin Herbert won't just go to him in the fourth quarter. He loves Mike Williams. He was the happiest guy when he got re-signed for a 3-year, $60 million contract, I think in March. So, yeah, he finally put it together, Mike Williams, with the receiving yards, the touchdowns, and a high volume of catches. So, and especially he got the trust from Brandon Staley, Joe Lombardi. He got paid. So they definitely, when you're making $20 million a year, you got to have another productive year. So I definitely think Mike Williams will have a big standout year in 2022 and finally be consistent on the field after being the number 7 overall pick in 2017.
Anything possibly coming from as far as flyers on a Jalen Guyton or one of those guys, Josh Palmer?
Yeah, the one I will definitely take a flyer on is Josh Palmer. Jalen Guyton has a role. He's gonna see the field. He's gonna get snaps because he does something that nobody else has, is speed. And it's funny because that was one of the maybe the silliest. I could use a stronger word. Silliest storylines. Obviously, the storyline for the Chargers was they have no speed. This receiving corps is going to be terrible. They have no speed. I'm like, what are you talking about? There's Mike Williams, there's Keenan Allen, and even Austin Ekeler. I always count Austin Ekeler as a receiver. But yeah, they don't have speed. I get it. And you have the strongest, one of the strongest arm quarterback in the NFL. It's Justin Herbert, Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen. You want to push it down the field, but they don't have speed. I get the issue. People have been screaming at me for a wide receiver throughout the off season that could be a burner because they didn't draft one in the first round, which it kind of seemed like they might go there because they want the speed, but you already have Keenan and Mike. So again, here we are with Jalen Guyton being the speedy guy, and he's shown flashes where he's like you mentioned that play. That was an awesome play against the Giants where he caught, and people give a lot of credit to Justin Herbert on the throw. But in the press box view, you get the full view. And I saw the way Jalen Guyton tracked down that touchdown. He went from, I think, his left shoulder to the right. He finally found it and hauled it in. So he has talent. He has skills. The only thing with Jalen Guyton, he's not consistent enough. He does not take off double teams from Keenan Allen and Mike Williams. If you're going to be the third guy in the speed, the top guy, you got to take pressure off your guys. And he's not doing that at a consistent rate. Somebody who's going to be consistent, I really feel like, in a different way, is Josh Palmer. So he could definitely be on the field for heavy volume. Those targets and the catches that Mike Williams doesn't get at a high volume. I can see Josh Palmer doing that. The funny thing last year, Jorge, the comparisons for Josh Palmer was he's big, he's a ball hawk, he's a jump ball guy. He's the next Mike Williams, and Mike Williams is going to be a free agent. So if he leaves, you got Josh Palmer. But the funny thing, when the year came around and he started feeling comfortable, he really resembled Keenan Allen. Like he was a third down guy, around the line of scrimmage, slot guy. And he's pretty big, but he wasn't the fastest. But anything in between the 10, 20-yard line, like he was reliable with the hands. He knew his assignments. And with Josh Palmer, I go back to what I really liked with Justin Herbert. that Baltimore game, when they were both 4-1, and it was kind of a showdown. It didn't work out for the Chargers, but when they needed a crucial fourth down, Justin Herbert immediately went to Josh Palmer and trusted him. So I think it's gonna be a big year for Josh Palmer. It's tough to kind of see his role because he does things that are similar to Mike Williams and similar to Keenan Allen.
Mm.
But when you fit the mold of Keenan Allen, and you could get the targets and be reliable with your hands, you're gonna find a way to get on the field. So I definitely see Josh Palmer being a big year. I don't know how big because there's too many mouths to feed, but I will take Josh Palmer over Jalen Guyton for sure.
The last mouth to feed I want to ask about is Gerald Everett coming over. Obviously, he's got a one season past playing with the Rams when Brandon Staley was the defensive coordinator. Could that be looked at as an upgrade over Jared Cook, and could he kind of be in the mix after when I say the big three receivers, I'm talking about Williams, Allen, and Everett. I mean, Eckler.
Yeah, the thing with Gerald Everett, he's definitely going to be an upgrade over Jared Cook. Just being younger, more athletic. And the thing with Jared Cook a year ago, it just didn't work out. He couldn't figure out the scheme. He couldn't get on the same page with Justin Herbert. I think there was about 3 pick sixes that came his way because he didn't know the assignment or the route, and it hurt Justin Herbert. So that's why he didn't come back. He is a veteran, and and there was high hopes for him, but he just couldn't figure it out. The thing with Gerald Everett, you kind of know his ceiling though, like you don't know how high it is, and I haven't seen enough from this coaching staff that they show they want the tight end heavily involved. They like the tight end to block. Gerald Everett's going to definitely be a better blocker than Jared Cook, and you have 2 tight end sets, and you can have Donald Parham, Trey McKitty, and Gerald Everett, and we're in different combinations. But to be heavily involved in the offense, I just don't see it. Yeah, Gerald Everett could help you out with some seam routes and catch balls in the middle of the field. I think he will definitely have more production than Jared Cook, but to really kind of rank him as one of the top tight ends in the NFL, I don't see it. But we know, Jorge, that the tight end on the waiver wire could be a graveyard. It's hard to find a tight end. So if you need somebody and you have a reliable quarterback every week in Justin Herbert, he's going to find the way to get you the ball. So I could definitely see Gerald Everett contributing. I just don't know how big it's going to be because, again, I haven't seen his coaching staff kind of feed the tight end. And, I guess when you don't really have a one that's a star, you don't have to. But Gerald Everett will be on the field for sure. He's going to be the starter, and that, I think, goes a long way when it comes to fantasy football.
All right. Well, another thing that's underrated that goes a long way for fantasy football is the offensive line. And obviously they took a big upgrade with Rashawn Slater last year, Corey Linsley, and that really solidified the left side of the offensive line. You've been, and they added Zion Johnson possibly to play and slot in at right guard. You've been one of the big proponents of the fact that they need to upgrade at right tackle. What kind of going into training camp, do they have the horses, or are they going to be, adding a blocking tight end, or, another body on the right side when Max Crosby's coming over and lining up on that side?
Yeah, this is why you're one of the compas, Jorge, because you don't forget about the offensive line. People forget about the offensive line in fantasy football so much, but it's a big part of the offense, and that's how it makes the Chargers go with Justin Herbert. It's funny because, finally last year, like even before I got to covering the Chargers, the offensive line has always been an issue over the last 10 years, from Phillip Rivers to Justin Herbert. And they finally showed some progress. There was some growth. Like you have a formidable trio in Rashawn Slater, which was a home run pick. Matt Filer was a great value pick in free agency. And you spent some money in Corey Linsley, which was, it was worth the money. But then that whole right side was trouble. And it's just kind of a weird kind of irony for the Chargers where, like, they finally figured out the offensive line, but that final game to make to the playoffs, Max Crosby just destroyed your right side. It came down the offensive line again. So the Chargers are trying to build it, and they kind of keep going to the right now. And they drafted Zion Johnson in the first round, like you mentioned, which was a great pick. People wanted the wide receiver, like I mentioned, a speedy, sexy wide receiver, but no. You got to build the offensive line, and I think Zion Johnson is one of the safest pick in the draft, and you could put him in there. And I think he's gonna be fine. Now that right tackle position, you're taking a big gamble, and I think the Chargers are just thinking they're gonna coach up Trey Pipkins and Storm Norton, and all of a sudden they're gonna be great picks. And I get it. Brandon Staley keeps telling me this every time I ask about the right tackle position. Justin Herbert threw 5,000 yards with Storm Norton blocking at the right tackle. I get it. The stats are nice, but when the game's on the line, crunch time, and they're attacking that right side, it's going to be hard for Justin Herbert to kind of make it. And he's going to make it happen. That guy is so good. It's going to happen. But it makes life harder. So they kind of neglected it. They drafted a tackle, or I guess he's more of a guard in Jamari Sawyer, but he was like a 6th-round pick. So they kind of neglected it. They didn't get a free agent or a veteran to come in and challenge. It's Storm, Trey. You were here last year, and it kind of reminds me of maybe 2 years ago where they said, "Hey, Sam Tevy, you've been around, play left tackle," and that was a disaster. It didn't work out. So they were taking a high gamble, but I guess when you have three really good linemen and one with high upside, that's better than most teams. I get it. They're going to put a good position. And the good thing about this coaching side with Brandon Staley, they have guys behind them. They're finally getting, some depth. They're grooming guys. So maybe I could kind of be, overthinking this because of the years I've covered this team. And even Chargers fans will tell me, no, you're right, man. You should be panicking about that position. But who knows? Maybe Staley and the coaching staff have it figured out, but I don't think it's going to hinder their season. You shouldn't be afraid of drafting Keenan Allen and Mike Williams and Justin Herbert and Austin Ekeler because the players I just named, they are loaded. They have a lot of great players, but there's going to be games where like they probably get, maybe they're hurting on the right side, or who knows? Maybe I'm wrong about Trey Pipkins and he finally pans out. With Storm Norton, we don't know either. We kind of seen what he could do, but we'll see. But I'm glad you mentioned Jorge. Because that is my biggest concern on this Chargers roster right now.
Yeah, I always focus on the offensive line because I mean those big guys, they make everything go, and hopefully that makes us a little bit different. So I wanted to ask on the other side of the ball, Khalil Mack coming in. I mean but they also added some bodies again, to shore up what was really one of the worst run defenses. I like to ask this question about the defensive side because so that I could kind of get the idea, do I want to warn the familia out there? Are should you attack this defense with players, or should you be wary? So how do they shape up against the run first off and against the pass, especially since they've invested so much in secondary?
Yeah, I'm glad you asked me about defense. Again, you're not neglecting the other side of the football, and it's funny because people who really play fantasy football with the individual defensive players or as IDP, I don't really know about defense too much. People always ask me that, and they're like, hey, how do they look? And I always say like take a chance because it's Derwin James and Joey Bosa. Like these guys are really good, and they'll make it work, and they kind of have it. That's my bad fantasy football world. I give you bad advice there. But it's hard again to kind of not say that because you mentioned Khalil Mack, J.C. Jackson, but I have my concerns. That's my second biggest concern after right tackle is how do you get so many new faces, so many new moving parts to mesh and gel quickly? I get it. You have Derwin James, Joey Bosa, Khalil Mack, J.C. Jackson. I could keep going on and on. Asante Samuel Jr. might have a big year too. They'll figure it out, I feel like. But the thing I'm kind of worried about is like, did they do enough to shore up the run defense? Like I feel like they went for the big guns and Khalil Mack and J.C. Jackson, which of course you should do. They're great, but they kind of waited for the second wave for the interior defensive linemen. Like they said, hey, Sebastian Joseph Day is like 26, 25. He has upside. He's raw. We can make him work. And it was kind of a bargain deal, but did you wait too long? Are you sure he's going to figure it out? And so far, Sebastian looks like the guy. Same thing with Austin Johnson. These are not household names, but they're big. And that's the biggest thing, for the Chargers defense a year ago. The interior guys did not fit the scheme or the mold or the prototype that Brandon Staley is looking for. Like they were a little undersized. They weren't as big. And Brandon Staley, he said, you know what, I'm going to put my money on obviously the premium positions, cornerback, edge rusher, and I'm going to look for guys who fit my scheme and the type of bodies that I want. And I think he feels like he found them. So, again, they're improving guys. They're young guys, but now they're his guys. Like he was taking guys from a different coaching staff. So that goes a long way. But I'm very concerned. This is the biggest concern on defense is linebacker position. You're kind of running it back again and taking a chance as a Kenneth Murray, the former first-round pick from 2020. He was the other guy from Justin Herbert year. It was Justin Herbert, Kenneth Murray, and he hasn't panned out. You have Drew Tranquil, who's kind of been the most reliable guy, but he's the only guy you kind of have. I know they got Troy Reader from the Rams to provide some veteran leadership and some some good awareness too. But that's my biggest concern. I think that could be an issue, the run defense. So maybe if you have a workhorse running back on the team playing the Chargers, you want to start him. But I think overall, by like maybe week 5, week 6, this team could be a really good defense. And I don't know about being an elite defense because again, it's 1 year and it's a lot of moving parts, but they'll be pretty good, I think.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of the things. I mean, I heard this a lot in baseball, and specific to Khalil Mack, he's on the older side, but it's like older players, they could still play. Maybe they just not so much like as not so many plays as consistently as they were 5 years before. But yeah, and plus I think he was he has a reputation for being good against the run. So
Yeah.
I want to close it out. You got Compas on the beat on a little bit of a sabbatical, but because you had a little break. Everybody needs a little bit break. What's coming up, and what kind of tacos, if we could put them in a FedEx to send them, what could we be sending to Fernando?
Yeah, good question with Fernando. Yeah, he for the backstory, he used to cover the Chargers. We have a podcast, Compas on the Beat, but he moved to South Bend, Indiana. That's right, South Bend, Indiana. What is a Mexican doing out there? But he's covering Notre Dame football, which is a big beat, national powerhouse. So to cover Notre Dame for him is a dream. So, but yeah, Jorge, he has no taco spot. So, but him and I, we're different. He wants a Tijuana taco. He wants the guacamole all over it, which I don't get. You ruin the taco, but it's all green and then a tortilla. So send him that. You can pick whatever meat you want, I guess. Carne asada, pastor, whatever. But he wants a Tijuana kind of style. And the other part is to kind of promote the podcast. I love that you're giving me kind of a platform for that. Jorge is, but yeah, we've been kind of a little summer break on Compas on the Beat, but we have big plans to kind of keep expanding. We want Compas on the Beat to kind of be, eventually kind of a notable media entity. So we're gonna keep growing. We're gonna have more shows. So big plans to come. We're adding, more compas to help us out, like Fernando's brother, Dan and Diego, my arch nemesis, but he's been big to help out. We're gonna add a producer. So I know, like you told me you were on the 2-year plan. You're doing well now. It's year 2 for us, so hopefully we kind of go on that same trajectory that you have. But definitely check out Compas on the Beat. We're going up. Take a stock now. Compas on the Beat on Spotify, Google, you name it, Apple Podcasts and YouTube. Subscribe. We'll really appreciate the support.
Yeah, Familia, they're great. I mean, I've been pumping them forever. Special thanks to Beto Duran for introducing me to them, and for also starting the Latino Media All Stars. But I love it. Fernando, I wish for you to find a taco place, por favor. And I'm with you. I do like more of the, just the onion and cilantro on the tacos. I put my guac in the burritos and the other stuff. So, I know you're not a fan, but, I have, what? One of my daughters is of like mind with you. So, if I can love her, I can still still call you compa. For
that's good. We think alike, and I know I bash avocados and guacamole, but I know if you go into somebody's house, la mamá, la abuela, I won't offend. I will take it. I will try it, and I won't make a face. So I have some manners at least, because I know how it is to go into a Mexican household, and you say you don't like avocados, it's the end of the day.
Well, you could always go, you could always say, me gusta la salsa mucho más. So
yeah, definitely. I got no problems with that. I can handle my spiciness in green, red. You want me to try it? I'll do it.
Bring it all. Bring it all. You brought it today, mi amigo. You brought it today. Muchas gracias. Thank you for coming on. I'm glad you got to enjoy a little bit of a break. I can't wait to see Compas on the Beat. I can't wait to see your work coming up. And Familia, I can't wait for you guys to keep enjoying this NFL Insider series. I'm shooting to have these all done by probably the first week in August, so you guys can keep coming back to them, and I'm going to keep promoting them a little bit. You guys can keep coming back to them throughout the month of August when you guys are getting ready for your drafts. Make sure you're doing that. And also, to help you get ready for your drafts, go to fantasypoints.com. Okay, use that promo code Familia22, Familia 22 if you want to put it in Spanish. get your 10% off your subscription. This is, you got so much great content. I can't tell you. I use it. I use it to help me become a better analyst for you guys. And again, make sure you're going to Apple, Google, Spotify to find Familia FFB, and go to familiafbb.com, on Facebook. I'm sorry, familiafb.com to get original content, but also Familia FFB on Facebook and Instagram. So muchas gracias to our invitado de lujo, Gilberto Manzano. I won't say it like Dan and Dago. I can't reach that high note, but
Yeah,
everybody,
don't try it.
Yeah, I won't try it. It'll hurt my voice for days. Everybody, familia, remember, todos somos familia. Salud.